Continue reading Krishna book, chapter 88. Krishna book by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, chapter 88, part 2. Lord Shiva's touch saved the demon from committing suicide. His bodily injuries immediately healed, and his body became as it was before. Then Lord Shiva told the demon, "My dear Vicaru, you do not need to cut off your head. You may ask for me any benediction you like, and I shall fulfill your desire. I do not know why you wanted to cut off your head to satisfy me. I became satisfied even by an offering of a little water." Actually, according to the Vedic process, the Shiva Linga in the temple of the form of the Lord Shiva in the temple is worshipped simply by offering Ganges water, because it is said that Lord Shiva is greatly satisfied when Ganges water is poured upon his head. Generally, devotees offer Ganges water and the leaves of the Bilva tree, which are especially meant for offering Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga. The fruit of this tree is also offered to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva assured Vicaru that he is satisfied by a very simple process of worship. Why then he was so eager to cut off his head, and why was he taking so much pain by cutting his body to pieces and offering it in the fire? There was no need of such severe penances. Anyway, out of compassion and sympathy, Lord Shiva prepared to give him any benediction he liked. When the demon was offered this facility by Lord Shiva, he asked for a fearful and abominable benediction. The demon was very sinful, and sinful persons do not know what sort of benediction should be asked from the deity. Therefore he asked Lord Shiva to bless him with such power that as soon as he would touch anyone's head, it would immediately crack, and then the man would die. The demons are described in the Bhagavad Gita as Duskritis or miscreants. Kriti means very meritorious, but when Duhu is added to it, means abominable. Instead of surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Duskritis worship different demigods to derive abominable material benefits. Although the Duskritis have brain power and merit, their merit and brain power are used for abominable activities. Sometimes, for example, materialistic scientists invent a lethal weapon. The scientific research for such an invention certainly requires a very good brain. But instead of inventing something beneficial to human society, they invent something to accelerate death, which is already assured to every man. They cannot show their meritorious power by inventing something which can save man from death. Instead, they invent weapons which accelerate the process of death. Similarly, Vicaru, instead of asking Lord Shiva for something beneficial to human society, asked for something very dangerous to human society. Lord Shiva is powerful enough to give any benediction, so the demon could have asked something beneficial from him. But for his personal interests, he asked that anyone whose head would be touched by his hand would at once die. Lord Shiva could understand the motive of the demon, and he was very sorry that he had assured him whatever benediction he liked. He could not withdraw his promise, but he was very sorry in his heart that he was to offer him a benediction so dangerous to human society. Devotees of the Personality of Godhead never asked any benediction from Lord Vishnu or Krishna. And even if they ask something from the Lord, it is not at all dangerous for human society. There is the dangerous between the demons and the devotees, or the worshippers of Lord Shiva and the worshippers of Lord Vishnu. While Sukadeva Goswami was narrating the history of Vicaru, he addressed Maharaj Parikshit as Bharata, referring to King Parikshit's birth in a family of devotees. Maharaj Parikshit was saved by Lord Krishna while in his mother's womb. Later he could have asked Lord Krishna to save him again from the curse of a Brahmana, but he did not do so. The demon, however, wanted to become immortal by killing everyone with the touch of his hand. Lord Shiva could understand this, but because he had promised, he gave him the benediction. The demon, however, being very sinful, immediately decided that he would use the benediction to kill Lord Shiva and take away Gauri Parvati for his personal enjoyment. He immediately decided to place his hand on the head of Lord Shiva. Thus Lord Shiva was put into an awkward position because he was endangered by his own benediction to a demon. This is an instance of a materialistic devotee misusing the power delivered from the demigods. Without further deliberation, the demon Vicaru approached Lord Shiva to place his hand on Lord Shiva's head. Lord Shiva was so afraid of him that his body trembled, and he fled from the land to the sky and from the sky to other planets, until he reached the limits of the universe. Above the higher planetary systems, Lord Shiva fled from one place to another, but the demon Vicaru continued to chase him. The predominating deities of other planets such as Brahma, Indra and Chandra could not find any way to save Lord Shiva from the impending danger. Wherever Lord Shiva went, they remained silent. At last, Lord Shiva approached Lord Vishnu, who is situated within this universe on the planet known as Svetadvip. Svetadvip is the local Vaikuntha planet beyond the jurisdictions of the influence of the external energy. Lord Vishnu, in his all-pervasive feature, remains everywhere, but wherever he remains personally is the Vaikuntha atmosphere. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the Lord remains within the heart of all living entities. As such, the Lord remains within the heart of many low-born living entities. But that does not mean he is low-born. Wherever he remains is transformed into Vaikuntha. So the planet within this universe known as Svetadvip is also Vaikuntha Loka. It is said in the Shastras that residential quarters within the forest are in the mode of goodness. Residential quarters in big cities, towns and villages are in the mode of passion, and residential quarters in an atmosphere where in indulgence in the four sinful activities of illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating and gambling predominates are in the mode of ignorance. But residential quarters in a temple of Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, are in Vaikuntha. It doesn't matter where the temple is situated, the temple itself, wherever it may be, is Vaikuntha. Similarly, the Svetadvip planet, although within the material jurisdiction in Vaikuntha, is Vaikuntha. Lord Shiva finally entered Svetadvip, Vaikuntha. In Svetadvip, there are great saintly persons who are completely freed from the envious nature of the material world and are beyond the jurisdictions of the four principles of material activity, namely religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification and liberation. Anyone who enters into that Vaikuntha planet never returns to this material world. Lord Narayan is celebrated as the lover of his devotees, and as soon as he understands that Lord Shiva was in great danger, he appeared as a brahmachari and personally approached Lord Shiva to receive him from a distance. The Lord appeared as a perfect brahmachari with a belt around his waist, a sacred thread, a deer skin, a brahmachari stick, and Rudra beads. Rudra beads are different from Tulasi beads. Rudra beads are used by the devotees of Lord Shiva. Dressed as a brahmachari, Lord Narayana stood before Lord Shiva. The shining effulgence emanating from his body attracted not only Lord Shiva but also the demon Vicaru. Lord Narayan offered his respects and obeisances unto Vicaru just to attract his sympathy and attention. Thus, stopping the demon, the Lord addressed him as follows: "My dear son of Sakuni, you appeared very tired and is coming from a very distant place. What is your purpose? Why have you come so far? I see that you are fatigued, so I request you to take a little rest. You should not unnecessarily tire your body. Everyone greatly values his body because only with the body can one fulfill all the desires of one's mind. We should not therefore unnecessarily give trouble to the body." The brahmachari addressed Vicaru as the son of Sakuni just to convince him that he was known to his father. Sakuni Vicaru then took the brahmachari to be someone known to his family, and therefore the brahmachari's sympathetic words appealed to him. Before the demon could argue that he had no time to take rest, the Lord informed him about the importance of the body, and the demon was convinced. Any man, especially a demon, takes his body to be very important. This Vikasura became convinced about the importance of his body. Then, just to pacify the demon, the brahmachari told him, "My dear Lord, if you think that you can disclose the mission for which you have taken the trouble to come here, maybe I shall be able to help you so that your purpose will be easily served." Indirectly, the Lord informed him that because the Lord is the Supreme Brahman, he would certainly be able to adjust the awkward situation created by Lord Shiva. The demon was greatly pacified by the sweet words of Lord Narayan in the form of a brahmachari, and at last he disclosed all that had happened in regard to the benediction offered by Lord Shiva. The Lord replied to the demon as follows: "I myself cannot believe that Lord Shiva has his truth given you such a benediction. As far as I know, Lord Shiva is not in a sane mental condition. When he had a quarrel with his father-in-law Daksha, he was cursed to become a pisacha, ghost. Thus he has become the leader of the ghosts and hobgoblins. Therefore I cannot put any faith in his words. But if you still have faith in the words of Lord Shiva, my dear king of the demons, then why don't you make an experiment by putting your hand on your own head? If the benediction proves false, then you can at once kill these liars, Lord Shiva, so that in the future he will not dare give out false benedictions." In this way, by Lord Narayan's sweet words and by the expansion of his own superior illusion, the demon became bewildered, and he actually forgot the power of Lord Shiva and his benediction. He was thus very easily persuaded to put his hand on his own head. As soon as the demon did that, his head cracked as if struck by a thunderbolt, and he immediately died. The demigods from heaven showered flowers on Lord Narayan, praising him with his shouts, all glories and all thanksgiving, and they offered their obeisances to Lord on the death of Vikasura. All the denizens in the higher planetary systems, namely the demigods, the Pitras, the Gandharvas, and the inhabitants of Janaloka, showered flowers on the personality of Godhead. Thus Lord Vishnu, in the form of a brahmachari, released Lord Shiva from the impending danger, saved the whole situation. Lord Narayan then informed Lord Shiva that this demon Vikasura was killed as the result of his sinful activities. He was especially sinful and offensive because he wanted to experiment on his own master. Lord Narayan then told Lord Shiva, "My dear Lord, a person who commits an offense to great souls cannot continue to exist. He is vanquished by his own sinful activities, and this is certainly true of this demon who has committed such an offensive act against you." Thus, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, who is transcendental to all material qualities, Lord Shiva was saved from being killed by a demon. Anyone who hears these stories with faith and devotion is certainly liberated from material entanglement, and as well as from the clutches of his enemies. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 88th chapter of Krishna, the deliverance of Lord Shiva.